I am Sharika Sanders, owner and CEO of Transform the Gap, and I have with me here someone that I know that you should know ASAP. And you know what, Rebecca? I'm just going to let you pick it up from there because I'm good for stealing thunder, but I'm not doing it today. Tell us who you are.
Love it. Beautiful introduction. My name is Rebecca. I am a licensed financial advisor. I am extremely passionate about guiding women on their journey to financial empowerment. I am backed currently by my family's wealth management firm. And so I specialize in breaking down the barriers that women face financially and kind of helping them find a way around them.
So, with that, Rebecca, please tell us what is the one thing or some things that you know that we should know?
Yeah, I think we're going to go over a few general things when it comes to finance. I wanted to start with the hierarchy of wealth as kind of the foundational base of overall general finance. So the hierarchy of wealth is just 3 sections. So at the bottom of the base of the pyramid, you have your debt management. So there's a few things here that are good to know. So just to dive in quickly about what debt management actually looks like. There's good debt and bad debt. Good debt is something where the underlying asset is potentially increasing, right? So that's your mortgage. That's a business loan. So bad debt is kind of the opposite, right? So it's something where the underlying asset is not appreciating in value and it's just, you're just paying to stay afloat. So that's your credit card debt and your car loans. So I usually put an asterisk next to the car loans because obviously some of us need a car to get from point A to point B. But there's a difference between the car that you need and the car that you are potentially driving, the car that you desire. So that's the question about debt management is it going to put you under or is it just going to get you from point A to point B like you need it to? So credit card debt to me, when someone comes to me with credit card debt, it means 2 things primarily. One, they don't have enough money to keep up with their lifestyle. So to me, that means either you're not making enough or you're spending too much. And so it's kind of taking a look into that and diving into the behavior aspect of debt management that I'm very obsessed with. So after debt management, after you have the base of debt management foundation, then it goes to the second level of saving. Now, this one's interesting for me because mentally, I think a lot of us think of saving and investing as 2 separate things. But I want to encourage you to start thinking about it as kind of the same thing. So saving to me as a financial advisor means safety of principle. It means that I need this money. So this is an emergency fund. If something were to happen, God forbid, that I have access to this money. So usually 3 to 6 months of expenses should be in a liquid account for an emergency fund under the savings umbrella. Now, when you say, so Sharika, let's ask you actually, is there something that you're saving for?
I want a new house, but don't tell my husband because he's not on board yet. But that is what we're saving for that I know that he doesn't know. But
love that. Okay, well, so saving for a house should be saved completely different than saving for a vacation that you want to take in 6 months. So for the example of the house, right? Let's say you have a time frame of 10 years. I don't know your time frame, but we'll pretend you need to get your husband on board, all of that stuff. So let's call it 10 years. So if you have that sort of a runway, that gives you room for investing. So that's you saving is actually the act of investing. And a lot of people don't think like that, right? So if you have a longer time horizon, when you say I'm saving for something, it should be breaking it down and saving specific amounts to invest for this goal.
I like that.
Yeah.
Which
is funny because that leads me into the second point that I wanted to chat about, but I wanted to see if you had anything to add about the hierarchy of wealth or if I maybe missed anything that you wanted me to discuss.
I love the hierarchy of wealth. Debt management, to make sure I have them. And
Mhm.
then savings and investment, are they one layer, another layer together?
So it gets kind of tricky. So once you have the debt management finance of the bottom of the period, the second
Mm-hmm.
layer would be saving for an emergency fund. Now, when I
Ah,
say saving, I mean strictly an emergency fund, right? Because anything
yes.
else that you're putting into an emergency fund, which by the way, this type of account can be overfunded. And what I mean by that is there's a certain point in which you're actually missing out because of opportunity cost. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where then this top of the pyramid is investing, because it's like everything else should then be probably invested, depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. So to be clear, saving for an emergency is you need new tires for the car all of a sudden, or you have an emergency and need a large, part of the car replaced. You need a new roof on the house and insurance, didn't cover it, or you need to do your those are emergencies.
Yep.
There's a new TV on sale at Best Buy, not an emergency.
Right.
You want to put a down payment on a car that you desire, not an emergency.
No.
So
Yeah.
just
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for adding that. Honestly, like it's healthcare, it's losing a job, it's making sure that your expenses of 3 to 6 months are covered in case something happened. I also like to say too, it's like if something were to happen, healthcare costs, someone that you love, one of your loved ones ended up in the
Mhm,
hospital, it wouldn't set you back to live paycheck to paycheck for the next few months
mhm,
because you can't keep up
mhm.
with your expenses. So that's what an emergency fund is for. It's a
Yes,
safety net for something happening, but as an
yes,
accident.
yes. Love it. Okay, so hierarchy of wealth. I think we're clear. I hope you all are taking notes. I hope you went and got the person that I asked you to go get because they need to hear this. And now, next, estate planning,
Wealth equation first.
wealth equation. I lied. Sorry.
No,
Wealth
it's all
equation.
good. We have a lot to cover and we're basically just going over the basics here. So the wealth equation is perfect after the hierarchy of wealth because,
Mhm,
now that you have your debt management as the base, you have your emergency fund, what is next, right? So the investing aspect is very overwhelming for a lot of women in particular. We weren't educated on it. We don't really know much. There's so much to know. So the wealth equation basically solves all of those problems, right? There's 3 components to the wealth equation. And again, this is extremely general, completely simplified, and finance is absolutely case by case. So I encourage you to obviously talk to someone about this. But we're just going over the wealth equation. So
okay.
3 main components. So this can work with any goal, right? So it's, I need X amount in 10 years. That is a goal. I love to say the difference between a goal and a dream is a deadline. So by
Mm,
saying I need $100,000 in 10 years to put a down payment on a house, that is a goal. That is a
yes,
smart goal.
yes.
So the wealth equation, 3 components: the amount that can be invested / is already invested. So something that you can continually invest, the amount that you can put aside, maybe you have $10,000 to invest today, but you're willing to invest $500 for the next however many months to get to your goal. That's what I mean by the amount. The next is the investment vehicles. This is important because depending on where you're investing exposes you to a certain rate of return, which is part
Mhm,
of the equation. And that's
mhm,
why certain investment vehicles are important to decide for a goal. And
mhm,
the last component that is the most heavily weighted is time horizon. So this is the amount of time. Time is your best friend when it comes to any goal. The sooner you start, the longer you can invest, and therefore the more time that compound interest is potentially working for you. And so these components, like I said, can work for any goal. So I am encouraging women to kind of flip it backwards, figure out what goal you want to achieve, and then calculate how you can get there.
mhm. Okay, I love it. First of all, let's repeat. The difference between a dream and a goal is a goal has a deadline.
Correct.
I think that's so important because sometimes we have goals and they may be a little bit out there, but because to others they may seem extreme, someone else may call them your dream. But if you set a deadline and you are disciplined and
Yes,
following your mini milestones or whatever it is you've established to reach that goal,
100%.
then you know where you're going. You know that you're working towards your goal. So hopefully this is a bit of encouragement for some and a bit of reality for others to say that if you're just talking about doing something and you haven't taken any steps, any actionable steps, you haven't started anything, it's just talk, then you're probably still on the dream side. So the wealth equation, very important. And okay, I'll stop. I'm gonna step down from that soapbox that I can do, and I want to make sure you have time to talk about estate planning.
Yeah, this is really important. I've noticed that in our society, we don't want to talk about these things. They're uncomfortable. So to put a positive spin on estate planning, it really is, you have to ask yourself, what is the legacy you want to leave behind? That's at the
Mhm.
end of the day. Um, the other thing too that I love to say is something is going to dictate your terms. You might as well have it be you while you're still alive. That's just how it is. You don't want your assets to end up in the state to have jurisdiction over it.
Yes.
That is just something to leave your family in a time of grieving. It's not necessary and could be completely avoided with
Yep.
correct discipline and consistency, and also just the correct terminology and meeting with the right people. So the three things when it comes to estate planning that someone needs to know: beneficiaries. They're super important. On any investments that you have, you can designate a beneficiary. You can do this through a financial institution. And the thing that I learned actually not so recently is beneficiaries beat a will. So what this means is if your beneficiary is deceased on an account, so let's say you're 40 years old, you have children, and your 401k from your 22-year-old job is just floating in the abyss, right? If that beneficiary is not one of your children or your spouse, then it will go into the estate. And then you'll then have to have the will. Beneficiaries will skip probate. So it'll just go straight to the beneficiary, which makes
Mhm.
the grieving process so much easier. There's obviously a lot of other stuff around beneficiaries. I'm giving the general gist right now of estate planning. And obviously you have to work with estate lawyers for actual estate planning, but I'm just giving my knowledge right now. Another thing to note too is TOD accounts. What this stands for is transfer on death. These are for individual brokerage non-qualified accounts. They're all the same name, 3 different names. We want to make it confusing for everyone. But yes, you can attach a beneficiary under a TOD individual account. The next, after a beneficiary, is the next important part of estate planning is insurance. Life insurance and disability are something that people that do have families should definitely look into. Someone can easily be overinsured or underinsured, so you have to make
Mhm.
sure that the person that you're working with is someone that you can trust, because like I said, you can be under or overinsured, and either one is not fun.
Right.
And the real question to ask this, because I get a few questions of when should I start a will? When should I start thinking about life insurance? And the question is, who will need the money if something were to happen to you? So if you have children, if you have someone that you're looking after and you were to, a freak accident were to happen, that you would want that individual to be set. And that's kind of the questions that you have to start thinking about. And the last part is estate planning. Like I said, this is something that you would work with an estate lawyer for, but this is about getting a will, putting together maybe even a trust, and this is all case by case, right? So there's no
Mhm.
one size fits all for one individual or even a family. But putting something in a will, again, ask the question of what happens in case of.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate your knowledge. I know there's just so much more in that well of wisdom. And I just thank you again for your time and using this platform to help so many people.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.